correct before the stream, my sound. Yeah, I'm Jesse February from South Africa. Yes, I struggle to say my surname sometimes. So what? Today we will be looking at some checkmating patterns, and they will all come from games, and I'll tell you exactly who played those games. Some of the games are really, really short, so I think it would be we wouldn't be doing chess much justice if we weren't going through the whole game of like 14 or 10 moves. Then we're going to be doing that. But it's good to see you. It's good to be here. And yeah, I haven't seen you guys in like 2 weeks. Yeah, I was sick last week, and now I'm back. So checkmating patterns, meaning that these are tactics, and like we constantly discuss, we will be looking for forceful moves, meaning checks, captures, and attacking moves. Really good to see you. So say hi in the chat if you guys want. Yeah. All right, in the first position, it is white to move. So as you can see, the last move that black made was bishop a6. But of course, it wasn't a good move, because after that, it just went downhill for black. So what do you think white played here? And these will be a combination of different mating patterns. I'll give you a name of the few that we will cover today. I have them right here with me. And I really like the unique names as well. I'm pretty sure they were named after people, right? So we have the Damiano's mate, Max Lang's mate, Damiano's bishop mate, Blackburn's mate, and I'm pretty sure the Blackburn's mate was named after Blackburn himself, because I remember I put Blackburn's game in today's lesson. We have Bowden's mate. I believe Bowden's mate is one of the simplest forms, right? Then we have Greco's mate, Epaulette. I love that name, Epaulette's mate, and Gerdion's mate, Lali's mate. So yeah, it's like a bunch of different checkmates meshed into one. Not one puzzle, that's not what I'm saying, into one session. I like that. Let's just make sure that the
Apparently I renewed a day early last stream, so here.
Okay. That was some like TTS on my OBS, but I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again. Okay, so we have a suggestion already. Hi, Chess Troopin, good to see you. That was cool. What exactly was cool? Oh, it wasn't the text-to-speech that was meant for us, so that's why I made sure that you guys can't hear it. Pretty sure it was on another stream. Kappa. Okay. Queen takes e4, f takes e4, bishop takes e4. I really love how fast that answer came, and it's amazing, madam. But what happens after that? So after we have queen takes e4, such a glorious queen sacrifice, because here the bishop on a6 is obviously targeting the queen on d3. So let's take a look. This bishop, making different colors. Bishop is targeting the queen on d3, but what happens after, here's your suggestion, right? Queen takes. And then we have pawn takes, bishop takes. That is the wrong arrow. Okay, bishop takes, and then it's check over here. Then of course the king will have to go backwards. But what happens after that? So I'm just going to remove the line so it's not too distracting. When the king goes to h8, what happens after that? Because it doesn't stop there, of course. When you're analyzing something like this, you're not just going to sacrifice your queen. You're going to see things through. Even though at the end of the two moves you found a check, it's not necessarily checkmate. And if that's where your analysis kind of stops, your visualization stops in an actual game, and there's nothing after that, then all you've done is given your queen for a check, and that's not what we want to achieve here. Good though that queen takes e4 is the answer, but we need the whole 5-course meal here, please. Captures, yeah. Alrighty. So let's go over it. What I'm going to do is use one color as to not make it too distracting. I'm going to use green. Okay. So the first move you suggested was queen takes e4. Then we have, again, pawn takes e4. Bishop takes e4. Check. The only move is king h8. What happens after that? Is mate on f7. I like how you jumped right to the end there, chest open, but it's correct. Right, so then we have, yes, exactly, knight g6. Check. Only move is king h7. Then we have what? So the thing is, we can't just go knight e5 and check with the bishop and then knight f7, because the rook will just take. So of course we have to take care of the rook first. So it's almost like taking out, removing the defender, coming back to what you were doing, and then repeating the whole sequence. Knight g6, take on f8, back to g6, knight e5, f7, exactly. So we're going to play those moves. Finally, we will get a chance to play them. Okay, let's play. Queen takes e4, the glorious first move. Of course, sacrificing the queen. Whenever a queen sacrifice is involved, I mean, that's when you really want to zoom into the whole position and say, whoa, 9 points gone. Like, what is the compensation? And here we have mate, right? So king h8, knight g6, as you mentioned, king h7, knight takes f8, check, king goes back. Of course, it's double check with the bishop and the knight. And when it's double check, the king has to move. There's no other way to protect two checks coming from two different sides. You have to move the king. So move the king. And then we have knight g6 again. Now it looks like you're just repeating moves, but the one difference now is that the rook is no longer on f8, and your opponent will not be able to claim threefold repetition, because the threefold repetition is kind of restarted after either pawn moves or there's a capture on the board, and there was a capture. So king h7, knight e5, king h8, and finally knight f7. And I mean, it's such a long combination to see, but in reality it plays itself. So the main move to see here is queen takes e4, and after that it pretty much falls into place. But if you had seen all of that, let's see how many moves you've seen ahead, right? So 1, 2, I only count white's moves, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 moves. So imagine playing an OTB game and you start a combination that ends in 7 moves of analysis or calculation. The word is calculation. Ends in 7 moves of calculation. It is glorious. It's a glorious win. You can take that home. You can write home about it. There we go. Even if it wasn't double check, the king has no moves. That's true. That's true. Kappa. No see discovery, exactly. Okay, so now this game was actually played between Alexander Alekhine and Alan Lionel Fletcher. So Alekhine was the one playing white pieces here, and if you saw the combination, you indeed can think like Alekhine. Own it. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one. This is a very short game that was played. Setting it up. Okay, this game was played between Alexander Alekhine once again, and his opponent goes by one name, and that's Vasek. Just like Cher or Madonna or Rihanna or Beyonce. This guy's name is Vasek. Yes, so Alexander Alekhine played white pieces, and as you can see, we are on the white side here, and we're seeing from white's perspective, and this game only lasted 11 moves. So you already know that it's Alekhine took the win here. All right, so let's begin. E4, E6. We have a lovely French. I would hate to be on the losing end here because I'm an avid French player, and I'm sure some of you in the chat are French players too. Chess Chopin, would you say that you are a proud ambassador of the French opening? So here, knight c3, bishop b4. We have the winner. The winner. I don't know how you guys pronounce it. You've never played the French? Sure, sure. Okay. Alrighty. So we have a bishop d3. And it's not often you see bishop d3. Usually in a position like this, you'll see something like a3. I've also seen knight e2, and I've seen bishop d2. But bishop d3, you do not see that often. Maybe you do, but I'm not very familiar with it here. So bishop takes. And I guess the whole point of bishop d3 is just to place some protection on the e4 pawn, because here after bishop b4, the knight is being pinned to the king. So we have bishop d3, and then we have bishop takes c3, just causing some structural damage in white's position. Honestly, I would have kept pressure here as black, perhaps played something like c5. Is c5 playable here? Hey Jirachi, good to see you. Co-cheese? Sure. Co-cheese is something you would say when posing for a co-chess photograph, right? Right. B takes C, and h6. A lot of moves you would not expect here. Bishop a3 is beautiful by white. Simply telling black here, you will never castle. Not as long as I am covering the f8 square. And even if the knight moves here, and black attempts to castle, it would be considered illegal. Now, yes, the king doesn't end up on f8, but it crosses through f8, and this would be considered illegal. And that confuses many, and I include myself in the many category. Although you wouldn't want to castle anyway, because the rook would end up on f8, and obviously the rook is more valuable. But a huge question that I had once was with regards to long castling. So if black were to long castle, but the bishop was eyeing down the b8 square, wouldn't that also interfere with the castling? And the answer is no, because the king is not crossing through b8. The rook is, but I mean, you cannot check the rook, so it's fine. So if you're playing king c8 and rook over to d8, which is long castling, even if the bishop is attacking the b8 square, I mean, castling is still possible. Knight e7 in castling, that's true. But let's see if white allows this to happen. We have knight d7 here. And then queen e2. I just have to remind myself of where to stop. Okay, queen e2. And queen e2 just threatening e takes d5, simple threat. And e cannot take back because of the pin on the king. So taking back with the bishop. And here black plays knight to f6. Bishop d3, just reserving that bishop. Do you guys like your knights or your bishops more? Very, very personal question. And why? I want to know. b6. And the evaluation bar just goes crazy. Just goes crazy here. It depends. So you have maybe a closed Grand Prix position, you'd prefer your knights. Or you have an open tactical position where you prefer your bishops. But in chess, I mean, it's natural to always look towards the endgame. Then even in a very closed position, where you are not sure whether the middle game is where the game will end, then perhaps you would want to choose your bishops. Always, right? It's the Bodens, mate. Good. Yes, we will be covering Bodens, mate. A voice to sing. Should I sing the answers to the puzzles? Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Bishops in open positions, knights in closed positions, I definitely agree. But what if you have a closed position in the middle game and suddenly you think it's just okay to give your bishop for a knight, and later on, I mean, you're exchanging pieces and suddenly you end up with an open position in the endgame. Maybe you have to protect both sides with maybe pass pawns on both ends of the board, and you have a knight versus a bishop. It's not ideal. So maybe if you have a knight on the board and your opponent has a bishop, or you have two knights versus a knight and a bishop, you'd want to keep things closed and you don't want to swap off and allow the position to open up. That's so important to remember. Always choose a light squared bishop on the French. I know you're joking, because the light squared bishop in the French is usually the most difficult bishop to develop. But I mean, we have our ways, right? So as a French player, it does become a problem when trying to develop the light squared bishop, c8 bishop, because I mean, you're playing e6, d5 to start off with, and that already, I mean, if it ends up being a static pawn structure, it's going to be really difficult to bring that bishop out. Even if it ends up on d7, it would be considered developed but not active. So if it splits, people usually like the knights because they are tricky. Bishops can be tricky as well. Fianchetto your bishop and we have a conversation. You saw the Anish course on the French? How was it? I really want some reviews. I'm sure it's funny because I saw the trailer of the Anish Giri French course, how he claimed to have made French not only playable but great again. So I really want to see that. I know they did a lot of advertising on that, and it's amazing. How the light squared bishop issue fixed. So let me guess. The issue was fixed with an early b6 bishop a6, right? In most cases, you wouldn't really care if your knight ended up on a6. So b6, bishop a6, bishop on f1. So over here, let me show you. So in normal terms, let's not imagine this is possible here. Okay, it's not possible here. But when the knight is still on b8, bishop a6, then the bishop on f1 would capture. And then the knight on b8 would capture, and you wouldn't really care about the knight in the rim on a6 for the moment. Because first of all, your problem is solved with this bishop. This is white's strongest bishop. And I mean, if they just let you capture on f1, then the king will not be able to castle and have to go like g3, king g2. So the knight will come back to some square, maybe c7, or even b8, d7 again, or b8, c6. So that's very, very interesting. Please tell me I'm right. You got the free version, but from what I've seen, I like it. In some lines, most of the time, white plays bishop b5 to stop bishop a6. Oh, b6, bishop b5, check. Bishop d7, bishop back. Then there's no longer bishop a6. That's tricky. That's tricky. I would definitely recommend the course then if you want to try and solve the problem of the c8 bishop and you can't stop playing the French, then that's the course for you, right? So here we have the suggestions. Queen sack. Yes, queen sacrifices are glorious, I must agree. Bishops I prefer when pawns on both sides of the board and knights where pawns on one side. Yeah, so even if you reach like a very open endgame, and I mean there are pawns on the board, but all those pawns are only on one side. So you have 4v4 on one side and nothing on the other side. You might as well just cut the board in half and not play on the other side, because a knight is good enough to defend in positions like that, even if you have a bishop. But if you're having to tackle both sides of the board or defend on both sides, I mean, it's much better to have a bishop. It takes 4 squares for the knight to go from one end to the other, and 1 for the bishop. So then he does bishop a4 plans, very typical. There isn't made on g6. Haha. Okay. Yes, exactly. So here we have, let me actually make the move. Of course, as you suggested, queen takes e6 check, pawn takes, and bishop g6 mate. It's beautiful. It's glorious. But it's great. Alexander Alekine takes the dub once again. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have another game, and the players here were Esteban Canal and No Name Brand versus No Name Brand. It says NN, no name, or not necessary, or not a noob. I don't know what NN stands for, but he doesn't have a name, and he probably played such a bad game that he was like, don't put my name in there. Then they agreed. I wish we could do that in reality, but unfortunately not. If we could just take all our online profiles and delete all our games, wouldn't that be just sweet? Okay, so Esteban played white pieces, and of course we're seeing it from white's perspective, meaning white obviously had a great position or great game. The game only lasted 14 moves, so let's see. Not named. They're mostly fake games. Why would you take away my hopes and dreams, Joker, by telling me that the games are mostly fake? So at the moment I'm reading Twitch chat as well as YouTube chat. You've given up on Svidler? Never give up on Svidler. That guy is wise. Very wise. And N has a 5% one. We're going to pretend like NN is a real person and that these games are real too. Okay. I saw the trailer with the new one with Sopiko as well. And in the trailer, he was talking about how, I don't know, he was kind of praising something or someone, and you would think that he was talking about Sopiko because every time he spoke, I mean, you would see Sopiko walking down a street, and it's beautiful. But then at the end, it's so funny because he sits down at the board and he's playing against Sopiko, but then he's like, I'm actually talking about the French. And you're just like, wow, well, this is well made. That was really, really good. Did he make it himself? How do you overcome fear of opponents and boost confidence in yourself? Well, that is an amazing question. So, in chess, it's not just about the chess. You have so many different aspects of the game that you need to focus on in order to improve. You have the chess part, of course. Then you have the physical part. You have to be physically fit in order to have the kind of endurance or stamina to last 9 games or last 11 games. Often you'll find chess players who are not chess fit or physically fit tend to get really, really exhausted halfway through the tournament. In the second half, it's just a complete flop and not at all how they usually play. So it's important to be not only chess fit, but physically fit somewhat. You need to... Exactly. Thank you, Joker. And then you have the psychological part. I mean, you could have one player in the chess scene who, I mean, is equal strength or maybe not much better than you, but this person constantly has this like mental stronghold over you, and you need to overcome that, not only I mean mentally, but I feel like even just working on your own chess, the mental part will just kind of drift away because that won't be important when you're sitting in front of your opponent and you're seeing a lot more than they are, and you're just so much better than them at chess that even the psychological part is not going to play or make a difference. But you can't just ignore the psychological part. So I think with experience and playing more, this psychology of chess becomes a little bit more easy to handle, but also taking some time doing yoga and meditation. Oh my goodness. I honestly did meditate at some point during chess events, and it helped. I must say, I'm not like a hippie or a guru or anything, but it does help. It really does help. um Thank you. But the fear of opponents, I can definitely relate to that. Being afraid of someone. But it's a matter of time and experience, I must say. Yeah. And just having faith in yourself, because the more you work on your chess, the better you are going to become. And yes, I know no matter how good you are at chess, you might still have those issues, but with time it will get better, for sure. Okay, yeah, I'm just catching up in the chat. All right, so meditation is key. You know what? I'm going to take that question. I'm going to find the best answer for it, and I will be back next week, and I will share that answer with you. Is that a deal? Yeah, so who asked the question? Arun? Same time next week, I will have an answer for you. I promise. Oh, is the sound bad for a second? Let's make sure that it's not the case. Okay, it should be a lot better now. Alrighty. Having naps. Naps always help. If you're hungry, take a nap. If you're sad, take a nap. If you're happy, take a nap. And I had a friend who played some African zonal championship with me, and we were all preparing really hard. We lost a lot of sleep because of it, because we had like our university work on the one side, and then we had the chess preparation on the other, and maybe 2 games a day, 2 really long games a day, and you would have to prepare, eat, and finish all your work all in that time. And she literally did not prepare. She took naps in between rounds, and straight after dinner she would go sleep really early. She would maybe go take a swim or something, and then she'd come back. She won the zonal championship, became Women International Master elect by sleeping. I'm not saying that that is the way to go, but I'm saying that there has to be something about being well rested, right? So I'm making teaching fun. That's good. That's good. Siesta power. The power of the siesta. All right, let's go through the game. So Esteban, like I said, played white here, and we have a Scandi, Team Scandi. Who's Team Scandi out here? We have knight c3, queen a5, d4, c6, knight f3, bishop g4, bishop f4. I'm picking up some tips. What is the best way to deal, what is the best way to deal with the Scandinavian, especially with the queen a5, queen d6, or queen d8 lines? I'm still dabbling in a bunch of different variations. So let's see how it continues. e6, these are all normal. You also saw an FM who sleeps after every round. Good. Maybe I should start doing that as well, yeah? Okay. Then we have h3, just attacking the bishop, taking on f3. What I'm assuming here is that perhaps black was just a little bit afraid of g4, bishop g6, and knight e5. If this is theory, I would not be surprised. But also, would you end up kingside castling or playing bishop g2 castle, queen d2 long castle, but the queen's on a5, so with like a very potential boost of b5, b4, and I'm afraid of that. So what would be the idea? What would be the idea behind taking on f3? Queen takes f3, bishop b4. Okay, bishop e2, knight d7, and here he doesn't deal with this problem. Okay, and the reason why he was probably trying to be schmancy is that if white were to take previously, I mean the rook on a1 is just hanging. So what happens here? It's white to move. What do we play? What do we play? It's actually very interesting. I like it. To push g4, to not push g4 is always a big question. If you're playing blitz, I would most definitely play something like g4, because if you're pushing your opponent back and making their life difficult, or like limiting their options in a game, then I mean they're going to be spending a lot more time. But if you're just exchanging, then it's much easier. If your opponent is down on time, it's much easier for them to react because they will just be capturing back. But if you're complicating matters, then chances are they will get into serious or more time trouble and you'll win the game. The same mate. Shh, don't say anything. Always play g4 and move 1. If you play g4 and move 1, then not only are you playing the grub, but you would be insulting a lot of people. Castling is not the move. Here we're going to play a very forceful move, so we're going to consider checks, captures, and attacking moves. So let's focus on that quickly. Exactly. Aro has it. So here the first move, let's use the hand. Okay, so the first move is actually taking the bishop. And some of you, or most of you, even I would not consider taking this, sometimes because the first thing that pops into your mind is, I'm capturing a bishop, but I'm giving a rook. And then once my king moves, he's going to capture another rook, and let's just discard the plan altogether. But you're going to have to think about the crazy things too. So you're getting a bishop. They might be getting 2 rooks. After king d2, queen takes h1. But the queen is now in your territory and completely out of play. What comes after that? It's a good question. Unless he always plays the grub. Yep. And she's stronger than me, so maybe I need to consider playing the grub. Beautiful. Yeah, Emmanuel, you got it right. Very good. So here we have a very beautiful checkmate. After queen takes a1, king d2, then we have queen takes h1, and the final touches, drum roll. What is it? What is it? It is dun 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 dun. Queen takes c6, pawn takes, and the beautiful bishop a6 mate. So glorious. And yeah, it's very similar to the last checkmate that we had. I mean, these bishops are just kind of cutting the board in so many different ways. If you had to throw an orange up into the air, the bishops would just slash that orange. Yeah. 7 ways to Sunday. Does bishop a6 also win? You mean first bishop a6? I would think not, right? So bishop a6, knight b8. I mean, isn't there's knight e7 as well, no? Knights move backwards. You gotta remember, pieces can move backwards. Not the pawns, but pieces can do that. Yeah, 2 rooks sacrificed, and a queen if you were to consider that as well, yes. Well, yes it is. You beat the big boss. Unfortunately, I cannot babysit Rebecca today, yes. Rebecca's on her own today. Okay, so very glorious checkmate there. I love it. Okay, moving on to the next one. And we have quite a few to go. All right, this one is between Adolf Anderson and Max Lang. No N-Ns here. So the move that was played by Max is, by Adolf Anderson was g4. And since we're looking from Black's perspective, Mr. Max Lang is the one who won the game. And I believe Max Lang had his own checkmate as well. and checkmate named after him, right? So here you're really gonna have to buckle down and come up with a solution. So let's see, what do you think black plays in this position? Hey Dave, using the hashtag emotes. Can the queen go back and I'll take the second rook? If the queen went back, where would the queen go back to? Where would the queen go back to? There was a knight on c3, so the queen could not go to a2. It could not go to a3 because of the pawn on b2. It could not go to a4 because of the knight. a5 doesn't help because a5 is only covering c7. Oh, okay. a5. No, there's no a5 because the pawn had captured the bishop. That was on b4, so a5 is out of question. And queen a6, and the bishop is covering a6. So where does the queen go? The queen could not go back. Hopefully that answers your question, Mohammed. So you're saying queen g1, queen f1, rook h5. I'm gonna need some more there. The queen could go to a... The queen was on a1. Rook takes h5. Luigi, you're onto something. No, even half paying attention. Imagine you are full paying attention. Why are you only half paying attention? You need to full pay attention here. Give your full attention now. Okay. How many moves to mate? A lot. Let me count. I don't want to look at the notation. Okay, wait. Something like 4 or 5. 4 or 5. So let's see if you guys can get this. Nice queenside development. Yeah. Yeah, so if we had to look at these pieces over here. I mean, the pieces you don't develop are the pieces you're actually playing down. It's as though those pieces do not even exist on a chessboard. This one exists. The other 3 are ghosts. You can take them off the chessboard. My coach would literally do that. If I was not developing properly, he would say, let me just take these away because you're not using them, so I'm going to use them somewhere else. And I would cry. Jokes. Not joking. Working with a limited toolbox, you can borrow some tools, Dave. We will give you all the tools that you need. I mean, Luigi is onto something. So we had a rook takes h5. Queen f2, something similar. You are getting somewhere there. Anytime. Maybe queen f2 does the same thing, right? So here we have rook takes h5, pawn takes h5, and then the move here is not queen f2, but actually queen f4. Queen f4. Was it queen f4? No, it wasn't queen f4. We couldn't play queen f4. It was actually... I think the problem with queen f2 was it g3 that I was looking at? It couldn't be g3. Queen... Oh, right. Okay. No, that doesn't work. So queen f2... Because the answer here is queen e4. So queen f2 is interesting. Can't play this because queen h4 is the threat. Can you play this? Then queen h4, queen h3, queen e1, king h2. Okay, so queen f3, king h4, queen here, queen e1, and here. So that's not possible. So here the move is queen e4. Ah, okay. Unless. Because what happens after this? Hey, Deborah. White cannot play queen g4 because of this. So here queen e4 and queen f3 was played, actually. Queen f3 was played, but now what? In the starting position, also queen f2 is winning. Okay, that's good. That's really good. So now we have move, queen h4, queen h3, and then we get something, I mean, it's exactly what we got before. So probably both of those moves work, right? Queen e1, king h2, and yes, okay, bishop g1, because this is mate. We play this, this, and this. The reason we don't play queen g1 mate first, queen g1 first, is because it's not mate, because they have an escape square. But if we play bishop g1, this is their only move. We put the bishop here, bishop protects g3 or attacks g3, and then queen g1 mate. Awesome stuff. Okay, Adolf Anderson and Max Lang. Yeah, that was them. All right. Then we have Edward Lasker. Was that Emmanuel's brother? Or did they just have the same surname? Versus Fritz England. And was that the Fritz we know today as Fritz? We also know the England gambit. Because it's not the England gambit. England. Yeah. I look depressed. No, we're just working on chess. I'm very happy, thank you. No, this is my focused face, don't worry. Oh. Alrighty. So here we have another position, guys, and it's white to move. It looks all too familiar, I'm sure. Same sack, exactly. Exactly. Okay, Dave, so in the previous position, it was more about looking for the checkmate rather than chasing material, because in chess, when you win a game, you pretty much win all their pieces as well. So if you go pawn grabbing or grabbing pieces where there's actually an attack, then it's better to go for the attack. Exactly, guys. So this one is easy, fairly easy. It's just taking, check, and then bishop a6. I was lucky enough to actually get this in a game on stream as well, in a tournament. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Alrighty. Here we have a game. Max Yu was playing white pieces versus Wiersma. Wiersma? Is that Dutch or German? Wiersma. And bishop e6 was the last move that was played. White to move. It's up to you guys to finish the job. Finish the job. Still think queen f2 was a solution. You know what? It probably was an equally good move or even better. So I agree with you. Don't worry about that. No doubt. Virisma. Yeah, I can scroll up to show you the name. Here you go. Oh, it is not showing the name. Okay. Yeah, Wiersma. Torlek coming out of the Lux. What's up? focused on chasing rather than the attack. It's good to know that you're working on your chess, Dave. Suggest a chess book. Okay. There's one chess book I really love, and it's an easy read as well. I have it with me right now. I can show it to you. It's one of the first books that I actually showed my student. And everything is falling. Okay, not important. It is this one. My System by Aaron Nimzovich, one of the first books that were also introduced to me as someone who wanted to improve. I even started reading the book when I was about 1200. And when I say easy read, it's not just going to give you chess games with annotations saying this is better, this is better. It actually goes in depth and like highlights the definition of certain things. And if I go to the contents page, for instance, I'll say the center and development, the open file, general comments and definition, the 7th and 8th rank, the passed pawns exchanging, the elements of endgame strategy, the pinned piece, discovered check, the pawn chain. So yeah, this is the way. And I think Quality Chess just generally has good books. So yep. 96, hg6, rook h4. Exactly. Exactly. Good job, guys. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? And Max, you finished his opponent off. Okay, next we have mouthfuls of names here. So we have Sydney Payne Johnston and Frank James Marshall. Mr. Marshall from the Marshall Gambit. Alrighty. So the last move here that was played was knight takes g3. What was on g3? Might you ask? A bishop was on g3. Yeah, taken. What happens now? What does white do? What does white do? The overprotector. I hope you guys were watching the online Olympiad. I also think it's the first time that they had joint champions. It was India winning the Olympiad for the first time ever, I suppose. They've always been placing, and now they finally won, as well as Russia. So that's pretty cool. And I recently, or this afternoon, I took a good look at some of the games from the Olympiad. I opened it all up on ChessBase, and I was going through them. And you can also categorize or kind of sort the games by theoretical weight. Then there are these circles that show you how much theory was involved in the game. The darker the circles are, the more theory was involved. The lighter they are, the less theory was involved. And now my games, if I had to open up my database against much higher rated opponents, you'll find that a lot more theory is involved. But against opponents who are like at equal strength, I've had to tilt my screen to see some kind of shade of the circle. But that has been such a goal of mine to obviously improve my theory. And yeah, you want those heavy theoretical circles. And at the top you have Anant and who else was playing? Duda was playing, and I mean all the top players have these like incredibly dark, close to black circles, meaning the theory is so heavy, and obviously they know so much. That's nice. Krumnik called it. What? Okay. So what do we have? Double check? Where are we going to double check though? It's very similar to the previous one, Torlek. Okay, so the first move that was played was, of course, knight f7. Knight f7. Maybe Russians were not happy by the decision. Maybe at FIDE. I mean, Icardi had made the decision. He had made it public as well. I think he wrote it on Twitter. But I'm very happy because, I don't know, two teams have won. There's nothing wrong with that. Hi, Amir. Okay, knight f7, king h8. Just like previously, knight g6. Yes. Pawn takes g6. And then opening up the rook. The file for the rook. So the rook is now open and it's check. The bishop is covering the diagonal, so the only move left is of course queen h4 and taking checkmate. Very beautiful by Johnston. Then we have Reinhard Kumiter versus Gerald Welling. Reinhard. Didn't see h takes g3. Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, bishop f1 was the last move played here. Black to move. Position evaluation is -11. Yes. I mean, all of these are now very similar because it's just about taking it home, getting a beautiful position where there's a tactic and just taking it home. How many tactics do I solve per day? Back in 2016, when I was preparing for the African zonal tournament, I had one of the committee members of my federation contact me out of the blue, and they said, "Are you ready for the tournament?" I said, "I'm a little bit underprepared. I would have liked to spend more time training for the tournament." And they said, "To stay sharp, you need to do at least 50 tactics a day." And I said, "Thank you. That's very random advice, but I appreciate it." And he said, "Just do it. You're going to see the difference. You're going to stay sharp. You're going to see the tactics. In time trouble, you're most definitely going to have the upper hand because you'll be able to see these things, because it's just about seeing it. I mean, in chess, you basically it's teaching someone or learning how to see, because everything you need is in front of you. It's literally just sharpening your vision, sharpening your visualization, and spotting combinations and that kind of thing, and just bettering your calculation. So then I listened and I started doing 50 tactics a day. I think it was about 2 weeks before the event. And I mean, in a lot of games, it was hard fought and we would both get into time trouble, both me and my opponent, and I would come out on top somehow. So that was definitely beneficial. I mean, there were still some blunders, but they were less than had I not worked on my tactics. I'm happy with that. Knight h3. Knight c2. Sorry, so the bottom left is h8, the top left is h1. So I understand you saying knight h3, knight f2, knight h3, and queen e3 in this position. Should be close to mate. Yeah. Something else, huh? Use your eyes to see, exactly. It's not great when there's something in your eye. Okay. Seems good. Yeah, alright, so here we go. The first move is indeed knight h3. Very good. So then we have king h1, knight takes f2, good. King back. Now what? But what if you have glasses? Then your vision is twice as good. If you have 2 pairs of glasses on, then your vision is even better. If you have a magnifying glass, then no one can beat you. What is the answer here? So it's not to come back, actually. It's not to come back, but to rather redirect the knight. Nothing is attacking the bishop, so when we do discovered attack with the bishop, nothing can cover up, right? Knight takes e4. Knight takes e4, king h1, and knight g3. And then we have a very similar mate with the bishop covering g1 after captures and queen h5. Queen h5 mate. Very nice. Yes, exactly. Okay, that's beautiful, huh? So we have a couple more to get through in a few minutes, but okay. Paul Morphy versus James Thompson. Paul Morphy played white pieces. I remember right in the beginning, the first session I had, um, the first lesson that I was giving, I spoke about Paul Morphy versus the two dukes, the opera game in the 1800s. So since I've always loved games and just general concept named after Paul Morphy, so it's really cool. Paul Morphy played white pieces against James Thompson, and he had white to move. What to do? What to do? Ooh! I don't think my mic and I have a very good relationship. That was a beautiful mate, yeah. 100 puzzles? If you have the time, do 3,000 puzzles a day. But, okay, don't overdo it. Just pace yourself and trust that the improvements will come. 3,000. No, don't listen to me. Actually, listen to me, but I joke a lot. So, I mean, in chess, even if you are working on your chess and you're playing maybe some OTB or online games, you're not going to see some drastic improvements immediately. There was a time where I was working avidly on my chess. I think I was in the 11th grade at school, and I mean, I wasn't seeing any improvement. And then at the end of the school year, there were a set of tournaments I played in. My union championship, it was like an invitational. They had like ropes kind of cording off the area. And that was to see who was the best in my region. I mean, both male and female of all ages. And by then I was already like, I've been training so much, but I've not been seeing any results. And I went and I played. And I ended up winning the championship. And I'd realized that with all the training, my mindset had changed and the way I was looking at things were different. And I was struggling to have that change. It was more like if I was scared in a position, I'd go back to the way I used to think. And it's like a catapult. You got to be pulled back a bit before you're launched forward. And that's what happens when you work on your chess. It's going to go down before it goes up. And then when you see that improvement, you're not going to want to stop working on your chess. Yeah. And I went from like 1700 to 1950 in a couple months. It was glorious. Bishop g5. Interesting. There's something a little bit more forceful though, Amir. I need to get a mic arm. Yeah, the hoist. What's it called? You have more respect for the players with no time limit. But if you're playing a correspondence game, those games can take forever. Yeah, more forcing. 3,000 puzzles. You need a Harry Potter time turner. I got one of those. Doesn't work, but it's cool to have. Yeah, it's a win in many ways. I mean, it's very difficult for black to find a defense. So the first move is actually, yes, exactly. Pawn e6 is the first move. So we'll give the first move to you, and then black will make a move. Knight f6. And now it is white to move again. Yes. Yes. You're right. Okay, yes, you're right. Now it's rook takes d7. And then after king c8. Now you have it. No, I'm not going to say anymore. Yeah, it's Paul Morphy. It's always crazy. So we'll wait for you. Exactly. It's like the checkmate that we saw before. Yep. So we have the beautiful queen c6. Usually you find a pawn there, but there was no pawn. Pawn takes, and then bishop a6, checkmate. And once again, we find that the diagonals, bishops are slicing down there, the rook is protected, and also blocking off d8. So, yeah, that. Exactly. Sorry, there's no notation on the board, so mainly because it looks better without the notation, but also I'm going to claim that you're training your brain to know the notation without without seeing the numbers in the letters or being reliant thereon. Okay, so then we have Vladimir Nana. Let me try to get this right. Vladimir Nenarokov versus Peter Arsenovich Romanovsky. Wait. Wait for what? Your coordinates are messed up. Yeah. Pronouncing names is a challenge, especially when you don't speak. So surely Vladimir is from Russia, and it would be easier to pronounce a name if you were from that country. Narakov. Yeah, I'm not going to try that again. Could the king not have gone h7? The king could not go to b7? You mean the square? Because there was a bishop on that diagonal. No. The king was on c8. The bishop was on a6. When the queen went to c6, there was a pawn here, pawn captured, and then bishop a6, and the bishop was covering both of these squares. There was a bishop on this diagonal covering these two squares. The king was here. So no, the king could not have gone anywhere. Words are hard. Yes, words are very difficult. Everything's difficult. Back to the position. f4. And as you can see, the pawn had come from f3, not f2, so there's no en passant. What happens over here? Oh, you missed the second bishop. No problem. Rook takes f4, g takes f4, rook takes f4. I like it. Very nice. So we have bishop takes first, actually. Bishop takes first. I'd hidden the answers. Bishop takes f4 first. So we take with the least powerful piece here. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and then rook takes. Yes, now white will make a move. King g1. What happens now? What happens now? It was the other way. Yeah. So now we played rook f2. The point of rook f2 is that after queen e3, dot dot dot, dot 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 dot. Morse code. Nice, Arif. Depends. How many games should you play a day to improve? There is no correct answer to that. I would say, obviously you don't overdo it, but every single time you play a game, there's always an analysis feature no matter which website you're playing on, whether it be Chess24 or Chess.com or Lichess. It doesn't really matter the platform. After every single game you play, it's better to just take a look at the mistakes you've made. Because once you've identified that, if you're using an engine, or maybe you've just seen the mistake, it's good to go back and just double check that. So if you're playing 50 games in one day, those 50 games you will be analyzing. You can't just play and then hope to improve, because what if you end up repeating mistakes and you don't realize you're making those mistakes? One-day games, I try to avoid correspondence chess. I don't see the point. Okay, maybe if you're playing against a family member, or I mean, one move, 3 days, I don't see the point. If you want to play some longer chess, it's better to play classical chess with 30 minutes, 60 minutes on the clock. Over the board. Like if you want to really train, it's better to play against someone you know. You can set up a training match against someone who is equal strength or maybe stronger than you. So that's fine. 20. Less than 20 is your recommendation. Nice. Yeah, so here we have rook f2, king h1, and the other rook to f2. And now it's looking It's looking good for black, actually. But here white has something. Somehow it's better for white, because white has something. White has something, no? Let's see. Queen d4. White is winning. Okay, then Vladimir must have missed that, because after rook d2 now it's equal. This game is a mess. This game is a mess. And then rook g1. What happens after king takes? Let's see. We take like this, taking, and checkmate. This game is an absolute mess. Coming back, we have pawn takes, king h1, queen g2 mate, but the eval was going wild. It looks like your games. Yeah. No. Your games are good. Then we have NN versus Henry Blackburn, and this will probably be our last game that we will go through. I'll start from the beginning. It has some comments that I will read. I didn't check out who was the annotator of the game, but I really liked the comments. Okay. Oh, it's notes by Blackburn. Love to see it. So it's NN versus Joseph Henry Blackburn. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop C4. Whoa. Usually in a position like this, you'll see D3 or C3 or castles. But bishop F7 is wild. Okay, king F7, knight E5. Is this even theory? I don't think so. Knight takes, queen H5. And the note begins. I used to call this the Kentucky opening. For a while after its introduction, it was greatly favored by certain players. Two-piece sacrifice, but they soon grew tired of it. Is this real? Is this just a fantasy? The Jerome Gambit? Yeah. You burn 6,000 calories? 6,000 calories a game, or like through the tournaments? I better play tournaments every week. Dave. G6, taking, D6. Okay, and now it says, not to be outdone in generosity, taking the rook. At least you get some kind of compensation. Queen takes, queen h4. Okay, it wasn't check. Okay, queen h4, castles. Always get the king safe. C3. C3. Knight g4. What I like about queen h4 is that it protects on h7. And even though the queen on h8 looks incredibly dangerous, it can't do anything. Okay, so knight g4. h3. Now what? Dave, nice. I always feel hungry after a game. After a tournament, do you not eat during the tournament? Then after the whole like 2 weeks of tournament, you're like, I think I'm hungry. But no beauty over the word without mistakes. Oh, deep. Okay, so here, of course, it's bishop takes f2. King h1. Bishop f5 is beautiful. Because you think that the pawn will take, but the queen is hanging. So after the bishop moves, there's a discovered attack on the queen with the rook on a8. Queen takes a8. Done for. Queen takes h3. Taking, and bishop b4. I have never seen such an opening in my life. But apparently people actually played it and it's playable. Bishop f7. Play it in bullet and watch your opponent cringe. Yeah. I gotta memorize it, sure. The Kentucky opening. It's called the Kentucky, but was it renamed Jerome Gambit? Yeah. But I think that will be the end for today, guys. It was such a pleasure speaking to you and just kind of looking at these games and tactics with you. But I will see you again next week, and I believe the topic will be fundamentals, but we'll see what we have planned for next week. You can go check out all the coaches on coaches.com, and also a big good luck to the participants of the World Online School Chess Tournament that is happening at the end of the year. And I believe it's going to be really tough, and I will be watching. But hopefully some of you who are in the chat are actually participating. So it's good to see you. And I'll see you again next week. Bye, guys.